Jesus says, your tears are buying you a future without this pain. Every cry that left your lips when no one was listening, every night you clutched your own heart and whispered, God, why me? Heaven heard it all. Jesus wants you to know that those tears were never wasted. They were currency in the spiritual realm, paying for a freedom that only brokenness could purchase. You see, while you were trying to hold yourself together, heaven was working behind the veil, turning every sob, every ache, every moment you thought was punishment into a divine exchange. Your pain was not pointless, it was the soil where your destiny was being planted. Jesus says, you thought you were falling apart, but I was breaking the shell so your spirit could finally bloom. Every tear that fell from your eyes watered the ground of your next season, and though you cannot see it yet, something sacred has been growing in the dark places of your sorrow. Heaven has been silent not because you were forgotten, but because what was being prepared for you required quiet. Every unanswered prayer was not rejection, it was divine restraint. Jesus held back certain blessings until your heart was ready to receive them without breaking again. You thought the silence meant abandonment, but in truth, it meant transformation. You were being rewired, your spirit reshaped, your discernment sharpened through the pain you begged God to remove. Those who hurt you, those who walked away when you needed them most, they did not know that by leaving, they became instruments in God's rebuilding of you. Jesus whispers, if they hadn't broken you, you wouldn't have come to me this deeply. And that's what heaven wanted all along, not your perfection, not your performance, but your presence. Those tears you shed in the dark became sacred prayers even when you had no words left. They spoke louder than sermons, louder than declarations, louder than the noise of the world that told you to move on before you were ready. Jesus says, I saw you when you tried to smile in public but collapsed in private. I counted every tear, and each one is a promise I've kept in a bottle, not to remind you of what you lost, but to redeem it when the time is right. The tears that burned your skin were not wasted, they became the ink heaven used to write your next chapter. And soon, you will see that the pain that once drowned you is now the very ocean that carries you toward your purpose. You had to feel deeply so that you could heal deeply. You had to lose what you thought was everything so you could find what was eternal. Every moment of despair was a divine transaction, pain leaving you, promise approaching you. Even now, Jesus says your tears are softening the hard soil around your miracle, so that when it comes, it doesn't just change your life, it transforms your soul. Do you know why heaven let you cry that long? Because your tears purified you. They cleansed your spirit from attachments that no longer belonged to your calling. You see, some people prayed for your downfall, but your tears turned those curses into blessings. Some tried to silence your voice, but your sobs became a song of resilience in the halls of heaven. Every tear was a declaration, I'm still here. I'm still believing. And heaven heard that. Even when you felt unseen, angels gathered around your bed, whispering, hold on, they're closer to healing than they know. That's why you woke up when you didn't want to. That's why the pain that should have destroyed you became the very thing that gave you empathy, vision, and power. Jesus wants you to understand this. He never wastes suffering. Pain is heaven's most expensive teacher. It teaches humility where pride once ruled, patience where impulse once reigned, and faith where fear once lived. You've been graduating from one emotional lesson to another, and your tears have been your tuition. You've paid dearly for wisdom, but now it's time to collect the reward. The same tears that blurred your sight will soon give you clarity. The same heart that shattered will soon beat with divine confidence. Heaven is shifting you from weeping to witnessing. You will not cry over the same things again. You will begin to see your story differently, not as tragedy, but as testimony. Jesus says, the pain that broke you has been traded for peace that will never leave you. Your future is not waiting for your tears to dry, it's being built through them. Every drop carries divine data, mapping out new blessings, new relationships, and new opportunities that match the healed version of you. This is why you couldn't stay where you were, why certain doors slammed, and why people suddenly disappeared. Heaven was removing what couldn't hold the weight of your next chapter. And yes, it hurt. Yes, you begged for it to make sense. But the day will come when you'll look back and say, now I understand. Jesus whispers one last thing in this moment, don't rush your healing. The same tears that fell in sorrow will soon fall in gratitude. For when the promise arrives, you'll realize it wasn't delayed, it was being built in the background of your pain. So don't curse the nights you cried. Don't regret the moments you broke. Those tears were holy. They were your offering. They were heaven's signal that you still had hope buried beneath your hurt. And now, beloved, that hope is awakening. Heaven has been counting every tear not as loss, but as proof that you were strong enough to love, to feel, and to keep believing. And for that, Jesus says, your future is paid in full. Jesus says, your tears are buying you a future without this pain, and the process you are in right now, this season of quiet heartbreak, confusion, and loneliness, is not random. It is divine refinement. Every time you asked, why do I have to go through this again? Heaven whispered, because this time, you'll come out different. You've been walking through a storm that no one else can see, and still, you rise. Still, you show up. Still, you give when you're empty, love when you're drained, and smile when your soul trembles. Jesus says, you think you're breaking, but you're actually being reborn. The pain you feel is the stretching of your spirit preparing to contain greater joy. It hurts because it's holy. It burns because it's purifying. It feels endless because eternity is shaping something inside you that can never again be shaken by temporary people or passing seasons. Heaven didn't abandon you, it isolated you so you could finally hear your own soul's cry and realize that even in your emptiness, you were never unloved. There were moments when you almost convinced yourself that God had gone silent, that your prayers were just echoing in the void. But Jesus says, I was closer in your silence than I ever was in your joy. When you sat in that room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every choice, every loss, every goodbye, heaven was right there, holding your heart steady so you wouldn't collapse under the weight of your own empathy. You carry hearts that aren't yours to carry. You grieve silently for people who never apologized. You hold space for others who never showed up for you. And yet, you keep loving. That's why heaven trusts you with pain. It knows you won't let it poison you, you'll let it purify you. Every time you've been misunderstood, used, or taken for granted, God was writing footnotes in your story that said, wait until they see what comes after this. Your tears weren't proof of weakness, they were evidence of divine capacity. The ones who weep deeply are the ones who are chosen to heal deeply, and that's who you are. Jesus whispers, I saw you when you tried to heal while pretending not to be hurting. You smiled so others wouldn't worry. You gave advice while you were breaking. You prayed for peace while holding the shards of your own soul. That's why heaven is preparing something that will finally love you the way you've loved others, with gentleness, with consistency, with reverence. But before that arrives, the tears must finish their work. Every tear sheds what cannot follow you into peace. That's why the same cycles kept repeating, because you were trying to bring unhealed pieces into a healed future. But God says, no more. The delay isn't denial, it's the moment I finish stitching your heart so tightly that even if it's broken again, it will not bleed the same way. You are being made new in the quiet, while the world assumes you're still the same. The people who left you think they left a version of you behind, but the truth is, they left before your transformation was visible. When you rise, they won't even recognize the soul that emerges. There's a divine exchange happening right now, your tears for wisdom, your pain for peace, your heartbreak for holy discernment. Heaven is rewriting your perception of love so you'll never again settle for crumbs when you were made to sit at the table. Jesus says, they may have broken your heart, but they didn't break your spirit. That's what hell couldn't understand. Every trial sent to destroy you only drove you deeper into faith. You didn't just survive, you learned to pray differently. You learned to see signs in silence, hope in hurt, and purpose in pain. And while you were focused on survival, heaven was focused on preparation. The next season of your life requires a version of you that can't be manipulated by guilt, blinded by charm, or silenced by fear. That's why it had to hurt this much, so you'd finally outgrow the chains disguised as comfort. Jesus says, you will not cry in vain. Every tear you've ever shed is on record in heaven. Each one has a name, a story, and a promise attached. Some of your tears planted blessings you'll walk into years from now. Others washed away people who were pretending to love you. And a few were simply the sound of your spirit returning home to God after being stretched too far by the world. This is the part of the journey most don't talk about, the in-between where nothing makes sense, but everything is shifting. Heaven is rearranging people, places, and priorities behind your back, not to punish you, but to protect what you prayed for. You wanted peace, but peace often begins with separation. You wanted joy, but joy requires surrender. You wanted love, but divine love demands truth. And truth can hurt before it heals. You will start noticing that what once triggered you no longer moves you. The people who once had power over your emotions will begin to fade into background noise. That's not coldness, it's clarity. It's what happens when you finally understand that your tears were never meant to drown you, they were meant to cleanse your vision. You're seeing people, life, and yourself through heaven's lens now. You're realizing that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, it means release. You're learning that solitude doesn't equal loneliness, it equals sacred space where God can rebuild your confidence without outside interference. Jesus is removing distractions, even the ones you thought were blessings, because he knows your spirit can't be stretched if it's surrounded by noise. This is why things have been quiet lately. Heaven isn't ignoring you, it's aligning you. You don't need to chase signs anymore, you are the sign. Your endurance, your softness, your resilience, they are heaven's proof that light still exists in this world. Jesus whispers, "You are my evidence that broken people can still bloom." So cry if you need to, but understand this, every tear is constructing a throne inside your spirit where peace will soon sit permanently. What you feel now isn't the end, it's the unveiling. The same tears that fell in agony are the same tears that are building a bridge to your divine awakening. Heaven is closer than it's ever been, and your pain? It's just the sound of something sacred being born. My beloved child, I have seen every tear you've cried in silence, every moment when you whispered my name not out of strength but out of exhaustion, and I tell you now, those tears were not wasted, they were an offering, a seed being sown into the soil of your destiny. I know you've asked me, Lord, why do I still hurt when I've done everything right? And I say to you, because pain is not always punishment, it is transformation. Your tears have been watering the very ground where I am about to plant your new beginning. You thought you were breaking down, but you were breaking open. You were being emptied of what could not stay so I could fill you with what will last. There were things inside you, anger, fear, attachments to people and memories that wounded you, that could not come with you into the next chapter, so I allowed situations to touch your heart deeply enough that your tears could wash them out. You saw pain, I saw cleansing. You saw loss, I saw preparation. The reason your heart still aches when you think of that person, that moment, that betrayal, is because you've tied your peace to something I had to take from you for your protection. But hear me, beloved, your tears are currency in heaven. Every one that fell was recorded, not one unnoticed, not one forgotten. I have stored them in my hands, and from those drops I am shaping the very miracle you've been waiting for. You may not see it yet, but your weeping has been doing spiritual work, disarming what was sent to destroy you, breaking generational burdens, washing away the residue of what others left behind. You think you've been standing still, but every night you cried, you were moving closer to divine release. I'm telling you this because there is a day approaching when you will wake up, and the weight that has followed you for years will no longer live in your chest. The sorrow that has become part of your routine will suddenly feel foreign, and you'll wonder when it left. That's when you'll know the exchange has been made, your tears for peace, your heartbreak for wisdom, your emptiness for restoration. You've asked me why I let them go, why I didn't bring them back, why I didn't heal that relationship, but what you don't see is that some people cannot stand under the light I'm raising in you. I didn't remove them to punish you, I removed them because they would have pulled you back into what I freed you from. Some of the very things you begged me to fix were things that would have broken you again. So yes, your tears bought you something, a future without this same pain. You are not crying over what's gone, you are crying because your soul is shifting dimensions. You are being reborn into the version of you that pain cannot control. And when you feel weak, remember that my strength is made perfect in your weakness. I do my best work in the moments you think you failed. What you're feeling now is not the end, it's the transition, the shedding before the bloom. I am turning your mourning into dancing, your weeping into witness, your heartbreak into testimony. Keep your faith steady, because very soon, what hurt will no longer hurt, and what you lost will no longer matter, because I'm sending you joy that no person can take and peace that no circumstance can shake. Keep holding on, my child, for you are about to see what those tears have been creating behind the veil. My beloved child, this is the moment heaven has been waiting for, the moment you finally begin to understand that your tears were never signs of defeat, but sacred ink with which I have been writing your rebirth. You thought you were breaking apart, but I was carefully breaking away everything that couldn't come with you. I know you've cried yourself to sleep more times than you can count, clutching your heart and whispering my name through trembling lips, asking me when it will stop hurting, and I have watched over you every single time. I didn't leave you to suffer alone. I was beside you, collecting every tear as evidence, building your restoration piece by piece. You've been through seasons where people misunderstood your kindness, used your compassion, took your silence for weakness, but those experiences didn't destroy you, they shaped the spiritual authority that now rests upon you. Every wound you carried became an opening for my light to enter. Every heartbreak became a doorway for wisdom to flow through. And though you didn't see it then, I was allowing pain to peel away false attachments so your heart could finally recognize what real love feels like. My love, pure and unconditional, unchanging even when the world turned its back. You have been asking me, why did you take them? Why did you let them walk away? But, child, if you saw what I saw, you would thank me. I removed what was poisoning your peace, what was delaying your calling, what was dimming your fire. I let certain people exit not because they were evil, but because they were temporary lessons meant to teach you the difference between connection and captivity. And now, as your tears begin to dry, as your soul starts to breathe again, I want you to know something sacred. Your pain has matured you spiritually in ways comfort never could. You prayed for strength, and I answered by giving you storms to endure, so you'd see what you're truly made of. You prayed for peace, and I removed the distractions that made peace impossible. You prayed for love, and I allowed heartbreak so you'd learn that love begins with you and me first. The season you're in right now is not punishment, it is purification. I am not withholding blessings, I am rearranging your future so that when the blessing arrives, it fits perfectly into your healed hands. You will no longer sabotage what I send, because this pain has taught you discernment. You now recognize the difference between someone who feeds your spirit and someone who drains it. You now feel when energy shifts, when presence changes, when something isn't from me, and that wisdom will guard your next chapter. But my child, here is what I need you to understand. The tears that once fell in despair are now turning into oil, anointing oil for your purpose. I am anointing your heart to comfort others who are where you once were. The words you'll speak, the love you'll show, the strength you'll carry will heal people who thought they were too broken to be whole again. That's what your tears purchased. Not just a future without pain, but a future where your healing becomes a beacon for others still trapped in their storms. The angels have been preparing your path, doors are about to open that your name has been whispered into. The same heaven that watched you cry is now rejoicing, because your faith never broke. You held on through the darkness, and now the light is coming in ways you never imagined. Expect divine alignment, unexpected peace, and people sent by me to help you rebuild stronger than before. The story is shifting, and your soul can feel it. You are stepping into a chapter where joy will be your daily companion, where laughter will return to your spirit, and where you will finally understand why every tear had to fall. It wasn't punishment, it was payment for the promise. I am fulfilling it now. Your waiting wasn't in vain. Your tears weren't wasted. They bought you a life you won't have to cry to keep. Walk forward, my beloved, for the dawn that once felt distant is already rising within you.